am I dead inside? No, really. Like, I'm wondering whether or not I'm just like void, completely devoid of emotion, where I just don't feel anything anymore because nothing in this movie made me feel any sort of emotion. The more I think about it, the more I realized that there were scenes in this movie that, were supposed to tug at the heartstrings and, make you feel for characters or moments or whatever. And I'm looking back now, and I came out of that movie not feeling any of that. And there were few moments in particular that I'm going to touch on soon, but I just want to give a quick spoiler warning that there will be a lot of spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen the movie yet, please click away. I have an initial thoughts video, which I uploaded a couple of days ago. There are no spoilers in that video, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, watch that video first, then go see the movie. Or if you don't care about spoilers, because this movie has been spoiled like a month ago. So if you don't care, then continue watching. I don't care. Whatever. So stick around. Now, where to start? So I did enjoy the opening sequence of this film. Not the entire opening, the opening sequence. The first quarter of this movie I felt to be kind of daunting, boring at times. Even though there was a lot going on, I felt myself kind of bored with all the explanation going on. But I did enjoy the opening of this film, where they open up on Kylo Ren kind of just laying waste to people and killing everyone. So we meet up with Kylo Ren, and he is now the Supreme Leader in place of Snoke, which is cool. I feel like that was a good direction to go in. And so he's raging based off of the opening title crawl, which was kind of awkward, in my opinion. But anyway, so he's raging because he doesn't want anybody to take his power away, his power as Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. And so he's trying to track down the Emperor, who is broadcasting that he's back now. He's telling the entire universe that he's back. And so Kylo Ren is trying to find him because he feels threatened that Palpatine is going to take his power away. But as silly as that sounds, it was done pretty well, I think. It was a cool action sequence. Kylo Ren just killing people. That was pretty cool. And when we see Emperor Palpatine himself, he looked a little weird at first, his face and everything, but I feel like overall, it looked fine. The grittiness and the atmosphere I thought was pretty cool, and his fingers all fucked up, and he looked like a corpse. So I thought that was all fine, except for seeing Snoke in a little test tube Snoke. So Palpatine has been pulling the strings the entire time, and so he made Snoke. Of course he did, right? So there's a little test tube with pieces of Snoke in them, and it's just kind of silly. And as silly as that looks, the thing that bothered me the most about that is that they just kind of just come right out and say, here's what's going on. And I understand that they only have one movie to do this, 2.5 hours to fill all these gaps in, but they kind of just shove it right in your face instead of kind of letting us and the characters learn organically. This is the situation. This is what's going on. They're kind of just the Emperor made Snoke. He's in a test tube. There you go. All right, we're going to get on with the rest of this movie. And that's one of the things I feel like this movie suffers from the most, is just things being explained just right. Here's information. You need to go to a place. Here's where to go. You need to talk to this person. This is the person to talk. Everything is just handed to everybody, the audience and the characters. Now, while this movie was very fast-paced, like I said, they had to cram a lot of stuff into this movie. Not only were they retconning The Last Jedi, but they were putting in fan service and tying loose ends and all this. The movie was nonstop, but I felt bored for the first quarter of the movie. There was a moment where I was just sitting there, and I didn't care about anything that was going on. I was just there's no emotional connection to any of this, any of the characters, any of the situations. There's just nothing there. And I just want to get this out of the way now. In my opinion, The Last Jedi wasn't all bad. Yes, it sucked. And I fucking hate that movie. But there were some redeeming qualities to the movie. Like, it looked great. It was probably the best looking Star Wars movie ever. And there were some good action scenes, like the scene in the throne room with Snoke, where Kylo Ren and Rey were facing off with him, and then they fight whatever knights or guards that they were. I don't know, but that was a really cool fight sequence, and I'm not 100% mad about the death of Snoke. It's fine. The fact that they subverted expectations and what's Snoke and like what's going on with that, like it's fine. But I just feel like they could have executed it much better if they were going to have the Emperor pulling the strings from the beginning. They should have set it up somehow instead of just Snoke's dead. Now you direct this next movie and you figure it out. Like it's so obvious that there was no planning in this trilogy at all, and that's a big problem. So, in defense of Rian Johnson, he made a shitty Star Wars movie, but like he made the movie he wanted to make. Let's be fair. So, honestly, if Disney was so worried about making a cohesive trilogy and doing the story justice, instead of just like getting a movie out every 2 years, getting an episodic movie out every 2 years, and making that sweet Disney money, like we could have had, a more cohesive and, a trilogy that made sense. And the same goes for some of the characters that they made too, because I'm so bummed about Finn. Such a waste of a character. Like when the Force Awakens teaser trailer came out, Finn was the first face that we saw in that teaser trailer. He popped up, he's on that desert planet, he's all distressed and he's sweating and he's like, something big just happened, and he's wearing stormtrooper gear, and everybody was like, what's going on? Is this guy like a stormtrooper? Is he in disguise like they did in A New Hope? What's going on? And it was new and original, and it was something that was never done before, like a stormtrooper who broke off from the First Order to fight in the Resistance or the Rebellion or whatever it's called, this movie. I don't know. And everybody was questioning whether Finn was Force sensitive because, we had the scene of him with the lightsaber and then fighting Kylo Ren. And then at the end of The Force Awakens, when he got his spine split open and, kind of similar to how Luke was beaten down and had his hand chopped off at the end of Empire. It was shades of that where, Finn... me personally, I thought, Finn was going to be like our main character, and we were going to have Rey, of course, and then Finn. And so the end of The Force Awakens, I assumed that was going to be the low point for Finn, and then he'd come back in the next movie and be a hero, have a redemption story. But instead, he had this weird and awkward romance with Rose, who was a new character in The Last Jedi, and nothing against Rose, but everything was just so poorly written. And then the whole casino scene, which took like an hour of that movie, it was just not good and just not a good way to treat one of your new characters. And I know everyone hated the dynamic between Finn and Rose in The Last Jedi. I did too. It sucked, but they could have made it a little less awkward in this movie. I've never seen anybody get friend-zoned the way Rose got friend-zoned in The Rise of Skywalker. Rose just got finished giving this speech about hope and, everything that's supposed to be in Star Wars, and she said something good and inspirational, and Finn literally turns around, puts his hand on her shoulder, and says, "Cool story, friend." All right, he literally didn't say that, but he might as well have. The Chewbacca fake out. Oh my god. Oh. This was a low point of the movie. Okay, so they're on this planet doing a thing, and Rey goes out there to look at something, and then I think it was Poe or Finn, one of them. They're like, "Chewie, go get Rey. Go get her. Go out in the thing. I know the Knights of Ren are out there, but go get Rey. She's outside. We gotta leave." And like, you see this coming from a mile away. He goes out there and, they close in on him, and then they kidnap him. And it's like, I thought they were going to kill him right there, but they kidnap him and they start to fly away. Rey sees them flying away. They're like, oh, like they kidnapped Chewie and they're getting away. And so she starts using her force powers and she starts like pulling the ship back. Like, oh, we gotta, we can't let Chewie get away. Pull him back. And then Kylo Ren is coming and he's trying to like counter it. And I don't know, he's pulling the ship in this direction. And there's like this tense moment. And they're like looking. And then the ship blows up. And it's like, what did you think was going to happen? The ship is flying in one direction. They're being pulled from here and there and all this different energy being all that. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think he was going to come down gently? No. And then a scene later, he's alive. There were 2 ships. It's fine. I just don't. Why? What was the point? What was the whole point of that? Was to just make people go, oh my god, Chewie's dead. Literally, the person next to me in the theater was like, that's how Chewbacca dies. I'm like, yeah. I'm spilling coffee everywhere. And so that kind of took me out of the movie in a big way. What's going on with my microphone? I mean, that was a moment that was, obviously being played to mess with people's emotions. Like, oh, Chewbacca died. One of the original characters, one of the original heroes. And then like a minute later, they're like, oh, he's fine. Like, that was dirty. That was a dirty tactic that they did in that movie. I didn't care for that at all. There were also too many things in this movie, like too many little MacGuffins that they're chasing after, that it's like, oh, we gotta go here and find the thing. Like the dagger and the wayfinders and like all these things that had no setup in previous movies, but they're here and they're important to the plot in this movie, and it's just like, I don't care. I did like the Kylo Ren and Rey stuff. I feel like that was the best part of this movie. I feel like that was the best parts of this entire trilogy. In my opinion, I feel like Kylo Ren had the most character of anybody in this trilogy. He had the best character arc. He had the most internal struggle. He was like the highlight of this entire trilogy for me. And like a lot of people don't like Kylo Ren. I mean, it's fine. You're entitled to your opinion and all that. But I feel like, people using the excuse of, oh, he's a whiny bitch. Well, it's like, that's part of his struggle. Like, he's struggling with the light and the dark. And not everybody is going to experience that struggle in the same way. You see that Luke experienced that struggle differently than his father. So, I mean, to say that, like, he's not allowed to, have a temper or be emotional, it's kind of bullshit. Speaking of the prequels, this sequel trilogy really makes me appreciate the prequel movies a lot more. And like I said in the previous video, I was 11 when Phantom Menace came out, and even though there's a tiny little bit of nostalgia, when it comes to the prequels, for me, I still recognize that they suck. However, they did have a vision. They were consistent, and they went somewhere. The same cannot be said for these sequel trilogies. As much as they look good, prequels, or these sequels, the fact that I even need to ask that question is... But yeah, the fact that Kylo Ren was an imperfect character made him likable, in my opinion. Unlike Rey, where Rey was almost perfect the entire trilogy. She barely had any flaws, and when she did have a flaw, she overcame it in like seconds. Where Kylo Ren was struggling with light side and dark side, with how to use the Force or his power or anything like that, Rey just figured it out. And the fact that Palpatine is her grandfather, like, I'm fine with that. It just could have been set up better, and like, she could have had more of a struggle. She could have had more of a dark side. She could have, they could have teased a little more. They could have had like half a movie where she went dark or something like that. And the little scene where she was there and they had like the vision of her, like dark Rey with the double-edged red lightsaber there, and she kind of fought herself for like a second. And then this was like really weird to me when they were face to face, and then the dark Rey like bit at her with like those jagged teeth. That was just like weird to me. And then talking about Rey's character, the setups and the foreshadowing in this movie and the whole sequel trilogy in general, but this movie in particular. There was the one scene where, what is it, when they go down in the quicksand, which, by the way, looked awful. It looked unrendered as shit when they're sinking down in the quicksand, but whatever. So they're down in the cave there, and they find that worm monster, and, they're about to shoot it and attack, but Rey's like, no, like, I got this, and she goes up to it, like, all gentle, and the thing is like, and Rey's like, no, and then she, like, force heals it, and it's like, she's gonna do that later in the movie. She's gonna use that power, but we had to know that she could do it, so when she does do it, when it's important, that everybody's like, oh, how'd she learn how to do that? Well, she did it on the worm. Yeah, I'm just nitpicking here. I did like Poe's character. I liked Poe a lot in this movie. Where he barely had anything to do in the last movie. He finally had, like, a good character arc. They gave him the chance to be a leader after General Leia passed away, which was a heartfelt scene. But again, like, I didn't feel a lot of emotion, like, towards it. I got that all out a couple years ago when Carrie Fisher actually died, and then they fucked it up in The Last Jedi when they had her fly through space. But they did have a nice Leia moment in Rogue One for Carrie Fisher after she passed away, even though it was CGI and it looked a little weird. Like, the fact that they had her in there at the end and she was saying that, there's hope and all that was a nice moment after the passing of Carrie Fisher. So it was a bit emotional how Leia and Ben Solo kind of just faded out at the same time. But I'm skipping ahead here. We're talking about Poe. So yeah, Poe, after Leia passes away, Poe is the leader. He's the new general. And so everybody's looking towards Poe to be the leader in this final space battle against the Final Order. Is that what they called it? Something ominous. And so he's given the chance to lead, and he does, and he's confident, and everybody's, rallying behind him, and they start to fail. They get their ass kicked because they're outnumbered and outgunned, and everybody's like, Poe, what do we do? And he's like, he didn't know what to do. He said, sorry, everybody, I thought we had this. And in that moment where it seemed like all hope was lost, Lando comes in with 100,000 ships as backup, and they're coming through like at the end of Endgame when everybody's coming through the portals to save the day. If they were going to take, points from Endgame or like the Marvel movies in general, they should have did it from the beginning and like actually set up their movies. The final showdown with the Emperor. So Kylo Ren is good now. So Han Solo appears to Kylo Ren on the wreckage after he fights Rey. After Rey stabs him, and then she heals him, and then she gets away. Then Han Solo appears, and he's not Force Ghost because he's not Force sensitive. I guess he's a memory or something. And I mean, it was like a heartfelt moment because part of Kylo Ren's struggle was he killed his father, and he's struggling with his purpose and who he is and all that. And so Han Solo comes and he's like, it's okay, and tells him something good. I don't know, but it was just odd to me, like having Harrison Ford back. Every time this guy is like, could you kill this character and end the story? They're like, oh no, you gotta come back for one more movie. But I mean, I think it's fine. It's part of Kylo Ren, Ben Solo's arc, so that makes him become good, and he's Ben Solo now. And so he runs to back up Rey when she's going to face off with the Emperor. He takes out the Knights of Ren, who were like pointless in this movie. They barely do anything. And so the showdown happens. Rey versus the Emperor. Rey versus her grandpop. And he starts shooting lightning up at the ships and takes out like thousands of ships with his giant lightning hands. And then he aims it at Rey, and she blocks it with her lightsaber, which she's like totally overpowered, but that's nothing new. And Palpatine is like, I know the Sith. There's like hundreds or thousands of, like, I think they're Sith ghosts or spectators or something like that. It's like this big Roman Colosseum thing, and they're all in like this audience. It's like weird. And Rey is like, I am all the Jedi. Not like that. She didn't say it in that voice, but she said she's all the Jedi. And then you hear like past Jedi voices, and it's like ultimate good versus evil, and like all the Sith, all the Jedi, and she wins, of course. And then you hear like, Liam Neeson and like all the other like dead Jedi. That was fine, but the thing that like just I didn't get was how they cut out Anakin from his own story. If you're gonna bring back Palpatine, like where was Anakin? Where was Darth Vader or any of this? Like, oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about Darth Vader, one of the cool things that I did like about this movie was how, Rey and Kylo Ren's connection, where they could kind of like fight in the same room or like touch each other when they're in different rooms, but like items will phase through. So like there was one moment where like he grabbed like these beads and he was able to like track her down from like the beads, even though he's like on the other side of the galaxy, he was able to like reach her in that way. So they're having this lightsaber fight and he's trying to figure out where she is, and or rather they both knock down that pedestal that Darth Vader's helmet was on, and it phases through to where Kylo Ren is, and he's like, she's on the ship. That's a pretty cool, like, expansion of the Force lore, like, just different things that you could do with the Force. But yeah, back to it. She's overpowered, and she kills the Emperor, which I'm surprised, like, she blocks his giant lightning laser thing and shoots it back at him. And I'm kind of surprised that he wasn't like unlimited power. She takes like all of the Force energy and she dies, and then Ben comes and he does his Force healing on her, and they have like a kiss or something, and he dies, which I guess needed to happen for his redemption to be complete. That's it, and good wins. And so they come back and they're celebrating, everybody's happy and kissing and like all this happy stuff, which was fine. And then there was like a couple of Ewoks there, which made like no sense. They weren't in the entire movie. And then here's an Ewok. Remember these things? Remember Star Wars? Oh, actually, what was that? The Tinkerer thing, the Babadook? No, not the Babadook. I don't remember his name, but the thing that was, shutting off C-3PO's memory so they could access, like, his Sith, he read something in Sith, but he was forbidden to say it, so they had to, like, wipe his memory and shut him down, so that way he could, like, say the Sith language, but, like, that little guy that was funny. Like, I really like that. It was, like, solid humor, where it didn't undercut anything, and it was just, like, necessary. Like, this is good. But, yeah, they're all back, and they're celebrating. And Rey finally goes back to Tatooine, to Uncle Owen and Aunt Bru's farm, where nobody is there because obviously nobody's there. And she buries Luke and Leia's lightsabers. And like, there's this old woman there, and she's like, "Who are you?" And Rey is like, "I'm Rey." Rey who? And and she's like, Rey Skywalker, because she doesn't want to say she's a Palpatine because nobody likes the Palpatines. And yeah, that was the movie. It was a mess. Look, it wasn't all bad. There were certainly enjoyable parts to this movie, but it's very frustrating to me how poorly executed this entire trilogy was, and it's frustrating how they clearly did not have a vision from the beginning. But this hasn't ruined Star Wars for me in any way. Like, there's always the originals, and like the prequels, I guess after this, they're fine. I mean, Revenge of the Sith wasn't a bad movie. Like, that was fine. And Phantom Menace was fun sometimes with like the Darth Maul stuff. And of course, like Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor in the prequels was fantastic. But like, I just can't. The sequel trilogy was it was messy, it was inconsistent, and while it did have its fair share of bright spots, it's very frustrating. But Guys, leave your comments down below what you thought of The Rise of Skywalker and what you thought of the sequel trilogy. I mean, if you liked it, it's fine. Like, it's okay to like bad movies. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't terrible. It was just, they could have done so much better. It could have been much better executed, in my opinion. But yeah, leave a comment down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And if you want, we have a podcast called Where's the Zookeeper? Check that out. Links will be in places in the description. Check that out. Yeah, but leave your thoughts down below. I have nothing else to say. Bye, everybody.